W7LRH radio, State of the Salmon Run 2021 rover. (2 and 70 centimeter antenna. It's always been on this truck. I don't think it'll figure too heavily into the contest, but hey, maybe we can make a contact or two on it. Hustler RM75S Super Resonator. A couple pieces of parachute cord holding it from oscillating too much. Yaesu ATAS 120A. We are 1 week before the contest. So far we have tested this with some 20-meter contacts, both stationary and mobile. We've tested this with some 75-meter contacts, checking into a couple nets. And nearly everything inside the truck is ready for the contest. Let me walk around to the other side and show you what we got. CB antenna. A lot of times logging roads are posted with the CB channel. It's good to listen to them when you're driving around. Alright. Here's what we're looking at in here. The entire station is powered off of this fuse block. Here's a AWG6 coming from the front. And here's the other side of that AWG6 on a 60 amp breaker. So right now, we got the breaker on. If we want to cut all power to the station, we'd do that. And we bring it back up. We have a voltage indicator, which will stay on even if that breaker is off. Palm radio, mini single. For your CW needs. Yaesu 891. Yaesu FTM100DR. And what we've done since the Hustler has such a narrow bandwidth, I had my rig expert out here and I was spinning the Coax connector off of the radio every time, hooking up the rig expert, adjusting it to tune up 60 kilohertz and hooking it back up. And so I set it up with a dual switch setup like I have inside my shack. So here we have front switch, switches you back and forth between transceiver and scan. And the rear switch switches you back and forth between the 75 meter antenna and the ATAS. So if it were such that we wanted to check where our 75 meters resonant on, we put it on scan, which comes from this right angle PL259 up to this SMA I crimped on. And we have a mini VNA. Now this is my first day using the mini VNA. Like I said, I usually use a rig expert inside. Switch it to its proper antenna, and there we go. We have ourselves a good plot. It says, man, we can't get to focus there, but it is resonant at, oh no, actually it's still where I left it last time. Let's move it on up here. We're currently resonant at 3.82 megahertz. SWR of 1.19 to 1. So when it needs to be adjusted, one member of the activation team gonna take this Allen wrench, jump up in the bed, adjust the whip up or down. Another member of the team here is going to tell them what SWR it becomes resonant on once they back up and stay clear of the antenna, because them being next to the antenna changes it quite a bit. So the one thing we don't have, I was hoping to have my lithium iron phosphate batteries that I intend to install in this truck permanently. But looking like they aren't going to show up. So we are still under the hood in the front. We're going to put in the Renology 20 amp DC-DC charger to keep engine battery and radio batteries isolated. And for the time being, I'm going to move my 280 amp hour lithium iron phosphate bank out of my shack and put it in the truck, and we'll be ready for salmon run. So yeah, trying to work as many counties as we can on 75 meters, single sideband, because my activation team is me and a couple of technicians, and so they can use my frequencies, but they're not super comfortable using CW, and so we're going to stay on sideband. Also, the other two rover teams are going to be CW only, which makes sense as far as efficiency of the signal, but we're going to try and get you some single sideband, and I'll get a tentative schedule posted of kind of what time of day we're going to be in which counties. But it ought to be, 75 meters for the county to county work, 20 meters for the out of state stuff. We'll see if we play around with some other frequencies. If we drive by any other hams, we'll contact them on 2 meters. But yeah, the work today was to get this little NanoVNA in here on its arm, mounted permanently. So this truck now has a scanner. We've mounted a pure sine wave 300 watt inverter. We're not going to use that 300 watts. We're going to use about 45 watts of it because one of my activation partners is doing digital modes on a MacBook. And so while I have 19 volt DC power supplies I could use to power a regular laptop with some sort of barrel connector, I do not have something that we can hook to that MagSafe connector on the MacBook. And so I tested this inverter a little bit. It makes a hideous amount of noise on 6 meters. I think I heard a little bit on 10 meters. It wasn't as bad up on 20. 20, I was getting S7 noise from ignition noise. And so put a wound a toroid around the, well, we'll go around the other side. Wound our DC power supply for the FT891 around a toroid here. But also we wound the Coax around a toroid for the Hustler. It's down here in the truck bed. We wound the Coax for the ATAS around a toroid. It's down under the bed rail also. So we have a common mode choke on both of those now. Did some bonding in between truck bed and cab. Did a nice fat ground strap here directly from the 891 to one of the screws that goes straight into the transmission hub here. So grounded, bonded, brought that noise level down to like S2 instead of S7. So that ought to be much better for the noise on 20 meters. And the common mode chokes, when I first tried 75 meter antenna, it took like 3 or 4 people and me repeat my call sign over and over and over again, full 100 watts to check into noontime net. But put that common mode choke on there, checked into the British Columbia net at 80 watts, I think it was. And net control didn't hear me right away, but somebody on Vancouver Island came back, said he had me in an S8. So I am hopeful that we're going to go out. We're going to test all kinds of things while we're mobile this salmon run weekend. And I'll try and get some information up on my QRZ about the activation team and where we're going to be and some of the different things we're going to be testing out. So hope to see you down the log. W7 LRH Radio.